Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to have you all in my discussion regarding the impact of globalization on the income distribution in emerging economies like Argentina, Indonesia, Thailand, and Brazil. Globalization is such an international phenomenon which has grown integration and interdependence among economies. This globalization has also fostered industrial developments, fueled economic activities like import and export across borders. Thus, we can see that globalization has given the opportunity for political and cultural integrations throughout the world. Despite of such positive outcomes of globalization, there are arguments which talk about its negative consequences. A major negative consequence of globalization, which has attained significant attention, is income inequalities. This results from the competitive nature of foreign companies belonging to different industries. Since globalization has led to mobilization of resources, fostered trading operations, and global industrial operations, it served as a primary factor for economic prosperity and international market engagement of different developing and emerging economies. The presence of adequate and cheap labor resources has increased the flow of foreign direct investment, which is the FDI across the world, and this increase of FDI has fostered industrial development through import and export and employment generation. However, besides mobilizing industrial prosperity, this globalization has also destructed several subsistence and indigenous industries. Such destructions have also affected the economic welfare of multiple population segments around the world. There are rare studies which investigate the effect of globalization upon the economic status of the population of emerging economies. This means that are insufficient in-depth and case study-based researches related to the impact of globalization on economic welfare, especially income distribution within emerging economies. Thus, it is important to put forward researches on the above topic. Moreover, the definition of emerging countries also varies, as listed by different sources like the IMF, BRICS, and FTSE. Considering the definition of emerging economies by these different sources, countries like Argentina, Indonesia, and Brazil of South America and Asia are considered as emerging economies. Hence, it is important to analyze the effect of globalization in the income distribution in these countries to have a fair idea about the concerned topic. The paper aims to assess the impact of globalization on income distribution in emerging economies through a case study approach focusing on Brazil, Argentina, Indonesia, and Thailand. Data collection relies on credible secondary sources like the World Bank and authentic journals to analyze trends in globalization and income inequality using indicators such as trade as a percentage of GDP and the Gini index. Trade as a percentage of GDP is used as an indicator of globalization, while the Gini index measures income inequality. Data from 2000 to 2022 are analyzed to understand the effect of globalization on income distribution. Quantitative analysis is conducted using MS Excel, supplemented by qualitative analysis from scholarly journals and reports. Policy recommendations are provided based on the findings to address any adverse impacts of globalization on income distribution in emerging economies. The disparity of income between the wealthy and poor sections of the society is rising gradually. Through globalization, it's mobilizing economic prosperity, but it is restricted to the wealthier population segments of a society. This income distribution inequality exists in both developed and developing countries. Not only inequalities in income, globalization has also led to unnecessary wastage of resources, especially the natural ones. However, globalization has brought a lot of benefits to the emerging economies too. For instance, this has led to huge FDI inflows and trade liberalizations in the emerging economies. This globalization has also led to employment generation, and people are also enjoying higher wages in different sectors due to this phenomenon. Therefore, it can be said that globalization is benefiting skilled workers in different sectors in the emerging economies. Globalization has also mobilized purchasing power and improved living standards of people in the emerging economies. However, due to globalization, economies around the world became increasingly dependent on FDI, and their cheap labor resources are being exploited. This has reduced resilience of local market economies, which got majorly affected during the COVID-19. Argentina, an emerging country, has faced trade fluctuations during 2000 to 2022. A 2021 research paper stated that 20% of the richest population segment has obtained control over 48% of the total income generated in the country. Even a larger section of this country has also been facing wage disparities, which indicates towards income inequalities being fixed. Brazil, which is another emerging economy, also faced tremendous income inequalities aims of globalization. From 2008 to 2009, Brazil has obtained increasing FDIs and high economic growth. However, this economic prosperity has not been able to bring stability and equality in the income generation of Brazilians. The case of Indonesia, which is also an emerging economy, demonstrates a consistent rise in income inequality, followed by increasing trade volumes. Yes, it might sound weird, but despite of increasing trade volumes over the past few decades, inequalities in income have been persistent. This is because trade volumes through increasing are not growing in the same population. Thus, disparities in individual income also exist in Indonesia as an outcome of globalization. Therefore, we can see that through globalization has brought significant benefits to the emerging economies and developed economies as well. But the issue of income inequality or disparity has not been resolved. Thus, we cannot consider globalization as a solution for addressing income inequalities. I would like to conclude the discussion by saying that this is high time that we found the solutions specifically for income inequalities. Thank you all for listening and giving you precious time.